How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm hanging in there.
It's adorable.
Thank you.
Wonderful weather we have.
Yeah.
He does. There's been a couple times he's not quite sure. Yeah, he just does. He's 3.5, 3.
That's about my girl for 3. I'll see it first and then 3. It's a good age gap, but they were pretty good friends.
Yeah, it's fun. Yes,
Are you sleeping from?
she sleeps pretty good. Which is a lot different from when he was calling. So he was up
Right.
straight.
I had it first. Allison's great sleeper. It was a college. She was a sleeper. Yeah, it was a college. It was 5. Yes. Her son's always like, how had you first? Like, no, it was this.
Yeah. Yeah, she's sleeping good. That's better. Lindsay saw me too. And
Did you take that out too?
a week.
Oh,
It's a week.
as soon as you got that.
Yeah.
I think they had like 2 days off.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Meg. I can feel it.
Yeah, that's what she does say.
Yes.
Oh, that's you.
How are you?
Oh, there you are.
Oh, we're-
Someone else be a personal taxi.
I have 6. Should I start? Okay. All right, good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming out on this wonderful day in Western Pennsylvania. And it's hard to believe, but I saw the weather tonight and it's supposed to be 80 on Saturday, so up and down. So we'll start our meeting tonight. Let's stand for our pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tammy, could you call the roll call?
Carrie Armagost.
Here.
Megan Dreher. Here. Brady Pike.
Here.
Diane Pace.
Here.
Jeff Powell.
Here.
Corey Sherman.
Here.
Janine Stumpf. Here. Eric Sundling.
Here.
Kelly Treloyer.
Here. Thank you, Tammy. Do I have anyone who would like to make a motion concerning the reading and the approval of the minutes? Brady,
A second.
we have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any discussion on this, that anything need to change? Okay, motion carries. Do we have any public participation this evening? Okay, not seeing any, we'll move forward to presentations, and I believe we have Mr. Greg Sanford here of the Rashidi Group. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? All right, thank you so much for having me here tonight. So what started this whole thing? I'll give you a little background. I'm Greg Sanford from the Rashidi Group. We're the consultants for the Northwest Schools Consortium, and AC Valley is one of those schools. We'll talk about the consortium a little bit. And sort of what prompted my presence here tonight, David said, Dr. McDuff, I'm sorry, you had some questions on like what the school has done, what the consortium has done to help control healthcare costs, particularly with drugs. We're seeing a lot of things on the drug side of that. So we just thought this was a good opportunity to come in and just say, talk a little about consortium, what we've done sort of behind the scenes on the consortium, and look at some of the things that we're going to look at in the future. So everyone has a copy of it. It's a PowerPoint. I just have 2 slides to a page. Apologize if that's a little bit small. But my page 2, on the top slide, these are all the schools in the consortiums, 15 schools. Down at the bottom, this group is self-insured. So what that means is basically you rent Highmark's network, you're paying Highmark an administrative fee per month, and the claims processed through the consortium. The consortium, the fiscal agent for the consortium, she gets a monthly invoice, or not, I'm sorry, a weekly invoice of all the claims for all the 15 schools in the consortium. She pays that, you pay Highmark the fee to rent the network, and then the claims just processed through that. So basically, we'll show you how this works in a couple slides here. So again, the reason for the consortium, the whole consortium, you have about 1,600 contracts between the 15 schools. AC Valley, you have about 98 contracts. You wouldn't be able to be self-insured on your own, but being in the bigger group, you're able to spread that risk across the 1,600 contracts. Every school district, up and down, you're gonna have good years, bad years, but the consortium just levels that off. You're spreading that risk over the 1,600 contracts in the group. And the last point on here, on the bottom slide on page 2 is each school district, you have your own benefit plan in this group. You can make any changes to suit what's best for you. What's good for AC Valley may not be good for Clarion Limestone or Mercer County School District. So you have the opportunity to make your own benefit plan design changes, which you've just done. You're making some changes on July 1st. So when you do that, you get a reduced premium by doing that, or an adjustment to your premium.
Greg, just a comment, we will be adding Du Bois to this consortium?
Yes,
too,
and
correct?
Du Bois, they're coming in on July 1st. Okay. And they're actually, they have about 350 contracts on that, so that's a big addition to this group. And, again, the whole thing is just the law of large numbers. The more people you have in that, you're spreading that risk over. Now it's going to be closer to 3,000 or 2,000 contracts in there that you're spreading that risk. So page 3, the top of that. So again, you're self-insured. And this group, because of your size, you purchase stop loss insurance. Your stop loss attachment point is $450,000. So what that means is, with the consortium, you're paying any claim up to $450,000, and you buy a reinsurance to pay any claim over $450,000. So you pay a premium for stop loss insurance, but then if you have a catastrophic claim, it goes to that insurance. They pay that. Not in this group, about a year or two ago, not AC Valley, but in the consortium, we had about a $1.5 million claim, so 450 of that was paid by the consortium, and then the rest went to their reinsurance. So again, that protects you from some high claims. The slide at the bottom of page 3, I think this is an important one to show you how the consortium actually operates. So this was our last full year that we were that we have information for, 2021. Your total expenses for this group were $29,498,000, and out of that, $28,552 went to pay your claims. So every dollar in claims expense for every dollar, 96.8%, $96.80 is actually going to pay your actual claims. The administration, that's the biggest part of that is your stop loss insurance. That's about $650,000 last year for that. And then you're paying Highmark, Riskini Group consulting fee, and the other expenses for this group are your the Corey. This group has the code administration done through Riskini, and your audit, and then Swift MD. Swift MD is a telemedicine service that's free to all your members in your district and in the consortium. Page 4. At the top of that, that's your renewal history for the consortium. Going back 18 years, your average increase has been 5.78, which I throw that out just showing you like medical trend. Typically, we see medical trend between 8 to 11% every year. But this group, you're able to manage whatever your increases are. We meet at least twice a year, show you what your outcome is for that year. We just met the end of March. Went through the financials for this group, and then AC Valley has one vote out of the 15 schools. Each school district has one equal vote, and then you can actually set your rates based on how the consortium itself is operating rather than having Highmark come in and saying, we're just arbitrarily giving you an increase. So this group controls that. And down at the bottom is AC Valley's. In 2017, we went to a loss ratio formula, just sort of a way to equalize that. So schools that are having a good year, whatever the average increase would be through the consortium, you might be a little bit less than that, you might be a little bit more than that. Just looking at the bottom one here, your average loss ratio for this group is 93.35. The consortium is a little bit higher than that, 95.98. So your actual average increase over this period of time has actually been less than the consortium. So this increase wouldn't take into effect. I mentioned you're making benefit changes in July. Your increase for next year is 4.2%, but then you also get an adjustment based on the benefit changes that you made. I'll talk about that in a couple slides. On page 5, just throwing some things out. Some of the things that we can't control, obviously, research and technology. You see hospitals, they all have the robotics, things like that. Everyone, that's part of the cost of the hospital's charging for your services. Inflation, supply chain issues, just like anyone else. IV bags cost more at the hospital. Hospitals are having to pay more to their staff or pay them incentives to get them to be employed by the hospital. And then demographics, everyone's getting older, so is that leads to increasing costs. Down the bottom, cost shifting, we're seeing Medicare. When Medicare cuts their reimbursements to hospitals have to make that up by charging private companies or private employers. Direct advertising, especially in medicines, that's a big thing. We're seeing more costly medications on a market, which is great. You get that, and it allows people to live longer and live healthier lives, but those things are very expensive. And then the last bit on this slide is just the COVID-19. So this group, as of January, you've had about $1.8 million for this group in COVID-related claims. On slide 6, some of the things that we can control is lifestyle, and AC Valley's done a real good job. You had a wellness program in here. You had Highmark folks come in and do blood tests, things like that. I think that was in 2020. So you've done a lot to try to be proactive to help control your costs. And the whole thing with preventive service obviously is just to find something before it turns into a more costly, more chronic condition. So I think you've done a good job here with your wellness programs and some other health history and health questions. A lot of people just don't ask questions when they go to the doctors. And down at the bottom of that page, some of the things that the consortium has done to control costs, and these things have been done like behind the scenes, not necessarily in a change of benefits. This group, the philosophy has been, our people, we're not going to change your benefits. You can still go to the same doctors and hospitals, but if we can put steps in to help control costs, we've done a lot of those things. So this is just a couple examples. We've put utilization management in, site of care. The site of care just means that if someone's on a cancer drug or something, typically they might have had to go to the hospital to have that done or an urgent care center. If they qualify for that, they can have that done in their house at a lower cost setting. So we put a lot of things like that, and we're not denying them their medication or not denying that service, but just looking at ways that they can actually use to reduce costs. And there's some other things, connectivity and some edits here just to make sure that we're not overpaying bills and things like that. And on page 7, it's top on the drug side. A lot of these things the group has put in prior authorization, step therapy, site of care. We put in the Walgreens specialty, Walgreens Alliance specialty about a year or so ago. And this just means that if anyone's on a high-cost specialty drug, they have to get that through Walgreens rather than somewhere else, because Highmark has the best deal or the better deal with Walgreens. And they can also monitor that. If they're getting through that, they can make sure that that person's not getting more medication than they need, or and they're adhering to their medicine. And the other thing, new to market, high cost of value, and then we also put a copay armor in. And that copay armor, we put that in last year. And that's just like a coupon solution, so those high-cost drugs, this helps a person go to the manufacturer, get the manufacturer's rebate on that drug rather than having to process through the medical plan. And down at the bottom, what Varsity has done and what the Consortium has done is we have about 150 school districts that we're a consultant for in the state of Pennsylvania. We have 120 in Western Pennsylvania. So we use that leverage to go to Highmark to negotiate long-term agreements on your retention. On the drugs, we get a drug rebate credit every year. And we also look at reviewing and quoting PBMs. We've been with Highmark for a long time, but we're seeing more carving out drugs, looking at that. Some people looking at that as cost savings. At this point, we're going to do those on a test market with some of our consortiums, not all. But we're hopeful just with the I don't want to use the word threat, but with Highmark knows that we're looking at the other PBMs, then that just makes them come back and be more competitive with our groups. So that's in the works. And then the stop loss, that's your big expense on the administrative side. And we quote that out every year, and then we look at other things that you can do to save it. And just a couple other slides in here. I have just sort of your history, AC Valley on page 8. This is some things you've done in the past. In July of 2014, you increase your deductible, you put co-pays in, and you say your premium went down by about 4.41% when you did those things. And the next page, the top of page 9, those are the benefit changes that you have in place July 1 of 2022. You're increasing your deductible, and then you're increasing your brand co-payment on your prescription drugs. And just a couple other things I have in here. Like, we can look at this. It's easier to read rather than looking at the handout. But this page right here, this is just your diagnostic report. I'll just make a couple comments on that. So this is your active teachers, and we run this with a consortium for comparison every year when we meet in October, November. We look at this as a whole group, but this is just a snapshot of AC Valley. So just looking at that first box, you had, during this period that we looked at, you had 94 contracts. This is your active people, and just down to the middle of your total paid claims, a little over $2 million. Your payment per contract, you see that was an increase over the previous year, about 7.8%. $21,261 is your payment per contract. Your employee cost sharing, about 3/4 down to the bottom of that section, $123,000. So your people are actually, even though you don't have a premium co-share per se, they're actually paying 6.2% of the cost of claims in through their co-payments, through their deductibles and things like that. And their cost sharing per contract, so your average contract, they're paying $1,311 in their co-pays and in their deductible. And the last thing on this list is just the claims over $25,000. That did go up from the prior year. If you went from 12 to 15, and your claims over $25,000 or a little less than $1.2 million, which is about a little over half of your total claim, which that's typical we see. But you have a lot of people that are very healthy, have very low claims, and on the other side of that, you have some that require more services. And then we'll go back to this other, to the handout. Just a couple other things on page 10 still. And some other things that you can do down the road, which I mentioned before. Typically, these things would be something you do through negotiations because it does require a change. You can go to a more narrow medical network. You can put in on the drugs. You can put in more restrictive drug networks. You can put in different formularies. But again, those things are going to affect your members. They'll be disruptive if you do those. And we just throw that out that those are things that you can do. but typically we've just done things without any disruption to the people, the things that we can do behind the scenes. So I'll stop there. And the last section is just a little bit of information on the Varsity group, which I don't need to go through that, but for the sake of time. I'll take any questions you may have there.
Is there any thoughts on going with, like a non-PDF provider?
Well, John, and I looked at that one, that email that you sent to David, over to obviously you shared that with me. And that, I mean, I looked at that, I think that's more like geared towards like smaller groups that, like, I looked at that, and it's more like, they said small to mid-sized groups, like, so like, not necessarily, I don't think that's set up for the consortium like that is. And it was more looking at, all right, so if, just say, like, you have 6 employees, I'll say. And it looked at that, said, if you're getting your insurance from somewhere else, to the marketplace or something, they will put you in a plan where it's not age banded, so if you have younger, healthier employees that don't know if there's claims, and younger people go in that, and it sort of said like 60% of people save money by doing that. But I think, like, because you're in the 1,600 group, now soon to be 1,900, 2,000 with that, you're getting that first layer here, because your group, it's not based on your census here, and it's not based on, I mean, your claims have a little bit to do with that, but I think that was like geared towards something smaller than.
So theoretically, though, if we were to pull out of the machine, we just had to use that one because they had up to like 200 to 300 employees.
You can do that, but then you're losing, you probably want to be able to be self-insured, so then you're gonna be at the mercy of someone just rating, you know, a carrier's gonna, they're taking a risk for it, they're gonna charge you for the risk. The insurance companies, you know that, they're never gonna lose money. They might lose in 1 year, but then they're gonna get it back. But here, I think with the consortium concept, you look at that over that 18-year period, we showed that, your average increase has been a little over 5%, and you've been able to control that. You're able to control your costs by making benefit plan design changes in, but I'm like 100 life group, it's hard to, someone might buy your business for a short period of time, and if you look at that, you're actually doing pretty good compared to the consortium. So, but I appreciate that, and then, I think we're looking at that on the bigger picture where, we have 20,000 contracts across our book of business, so we can go to Highmark with your retention rate, we've been able to lower that, walk into a 3-year agreement on that. The same thing with the drugs, but Highmark, you're seeing more of that with people are carving out the drugs, which is a little bit more disruption for people because they might change your network, change your formulary. But we sort of looked at it with Highmark, we're seeing 20,000 contracts. We want the best deal that we can get for our schools. But if we don't, if we have to look elsewhere, we're doing that on a test basis, not, like I said, not every consortium, just so we make sure that we're getting a better deal on that.
So you are looking like at other, like UPMC or other ones?
Well, and actually, like, this group, we're Highmark, but you always have that, even with the consortium, we have one of our schools that does have UPMC. And you could go to anyone, an individual school could do that. But again, you're paying your actual claims. So UPMC, if you would change to UPMC, you're automatically, your people are going to be able to go to Allegheny Health Network because that's not in the UPMC network. The out of the area network, someone's in Myrtle Beach or somewhere like that, that network's going to be different through UPMC. Highmark has a national network. And it's just our feeling, if you look at that, there was something in the Post-Gazette a couple months ago where they compared the Highmark discounts to UPMC to Aetna and Cigna in the Pittsburgh area. And it was, I don't want to say by far, but in most cases, you go for knee surgery, somewhere the Highmark discount is greater than, which means the cost to your plan is less than having a UPMC or that or Cigna. But yeah, we look at that, but again, those are one of the things where if you're changing carrier, you're going to have to, in the school, I used to be a business manager, you just can't change the network. We're gonna have to, negotiate that with the group or let them make that choice or be part of that choice. But yeah, like we look at that stuff. But again, Highmark at this point has the best deal on the discounts. It all goes back to you're paying your actual cost of claims. And when you're fully insured, someone can come in and they'll buy it for a year or two, but at some point that catches up to you. You're paying your actual claims, and just part of the slide is we've done all those things that we can to put or to try to control that claims cost by putting some of those programs in.
Any other questions?
All right, thank you for the opportunity. Yes, I appreciate that. And I just said that your schools are always just so nice and clean whenever I come here. And as a former businessman, you notice that when you come in, like you're awesome.
Well, thank you.
Good facilities here.
We have a great
Good
staff.
people here too. Yes, you do.
Excellent.
All right.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And Diane, sir, we have access to this information.
Okay, do we have any board concerns this evening? Okay, not seeing any, we will move on to the consent agenda. Are there any items you would like pulled from the consent agenda? I think G is a discussion, so we'll come back to that. We'll do A through F. Is there anything you want pulled from that to vote on separately? Okay, not seeing any, do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion.
Okay,
I'll second.
okay, approved and seconded. Any discussion on any of those items between A and F? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion carries. I think, David, you have some info on G for us?
Yes, I met with Cindy King this past week, and she'd like for us to discuss changing yearbook vendors. And the one item that we have to take a look at is working with Walworth. It's a current contract with 1 more year remaining. So we can't do anything until we can get outside of this contract. But the new company that she is working with provides a yearbook for almost half the cost that would be coming to Walworth. So it would be a much better deal for our students. Because what we're seeing right now is one family will get a yearbook, they have more than one children. They're not buying individual children or yearbooks. And there's a lot of great memories in here as well. I'm going to pass this around just to see the quality of it. And the school district has the latitude of creating their own cover with doing art contest with the high school art club, and they can actually impose a cover in a picture. They plant one tree per book that they sell, and just the overall cost and the ease of working with that vendor is what Cindy wanted me to share with the school board. So I'll provide additional information once we figure out a little bit more about the current contract with Walworth. And then I told her we need another contract for the new company to come in and put in front of the school board as well. So hopefully in May we can get everything put together in one nice package and get that in front of you for a vote.
I think she mentioned to me too, like this company will customize a couple pages for every child, right? Like
Yeah,
when they order them, they can put their own pictures in there, and each one will be different, like they'll customize it for each one. And I guess there's been a lot of buzz on the groups across the nation that work on your books. This seems to be a great company.
that's all I have.
Okay. Meg, would you do finance and purchase?
Sure. Do we have a cafeteria report?
No, Stacy's been Harrisburg for 2-day training. So she does have a report at your desk, but not here.
Okay, just gonna lump A through H together then, so I think that's good for those.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
I, consideration to approve the purchase of a dual tent cabinet and pay for food service equipment grant funds for the cafeteria from Dover Corporation as listed on both dated 9/24/21 in the amount of $39,640.51. And food service equipment grant agreement, each as attached. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
J, consideration to approve raising the cost of breakfast and lunch for the Jefferson County Head Start and pre-K counts by 10 cents each beginning of the 2022-2023 school year. New prices as follows: breakfast is $2.05 and lunch is $3.55. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
A, consideration to approve raising the cost of breakfast and lunch for the ACV district by 10 cents each beginning with the 2022-2023 school year. New prices are as follows: breakfast is $1.20, lunch is $2.55, reduced breakfast is 40 cents, and reduced lunch is 50 cents. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
I have a quick question. So the free lunch that we've been getting throughout all of this, that is done for sure?
As of right now, as far as we know.
Letter L, consideration to approve paying for half of the cost of an appraisal for the vacated Mid-Atlantic Youth Facility. This appraisal should not exceed the amount of $2,000.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? So what happens if we don't pay for that? We don't let them do the appraisal, we still keep getting the taxes at the higher rate?
I didn't ask that question when we were in there. That was part of Will White, that was his proposal, so that we can expedite this process. And the big push right now is to try to sell it, and they want to make sure that they can sell it at a price that's going to benefit the county as well as the school district. So that was the intent.
Okay. All right, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Letter M, consideration to approve repairing the carpet in the high school library at the cost of $21,329.41 as attached. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Carrie, are you still with us?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Letter N, consideration to approve the designated assigned and unassigned 2021-2022 fund balance report as attached. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
O, consideration to approve increase in taxes for the 2022-2023 school year. So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Discussion.
Andrew, is there anything you'd like to add to that, the information that our board has been received?
Everybody has a packet at their seat with the same information that I emailed to you regarding your personal taxes to show you the different increases at the different rates.
So I think what we need to do is, if we're going to vote to increase, we've got to come up with the amount.
Just keep in mind with Act 1 in there, we can increase it by a max of 4.6%.
So discussion. Everybody's quiet tonight. I mean, what are your thoughts?
I know a couple people have talked to me and they're not in favor of raising the taxes.
Okay.
We went quite a while
No, just the opposite. We've raised, I think, 9 out of the last 10 years. We didn't always go to the index, but we did raise them. There was 1 year that we did not.
And that was 2 years ago.
Yes.
You can see on there, I mean, raising it doesn't garner a lot, but if you take that over 10 years, it adds up. Not that we want to raise it, but we have to think about the fact that we're in the hole here.
This year with inflation, we should definitely consider raising it. Whoever is going to be doing it. Over the long run.
Everything's.
Looking at the budget, I think we almost have to.
Okay, did you hear Diane? Can you say that again, Diane?
Looking at the budget, I think we almost have to raise them.
She said, looking at the budget, he thinks we almost have to raise them. Not that it's going to make up our difference.
Yeah, but we don't want to fall any further behind.
Exactly, and so 10 years from now, you have to think about that chunk of money over 10 years' time, you know. And I agree with you, I mean, with inflation, nobody wants to charge people any more. But we're kind of between a rock and a hard place at this point.
It's just difficult that the state's not fully funding schools the way they should. We're, depending on which article you read, but we're anywhere from 44 to 46 out of 50 states with how they fund public education here in Pennsylvania. It does push it back onto the taxpayers. And with the fair funding formula, small rural school districts like ourselves, Union, even Farrell over there, you know, the small schools with the fair funding formula, we're just not getting the additional revenue to help manage the bills. So they're just pushing it back on the taxpayers, unfortunately. That's how we're able to help maintain status quo.
The other thing to consider, I think I saw in the paper, Clarion is pushing for a tax assessment, which hasn't happened in like 40 years, I think. So I don't know how that's going to affect us. I would think some things are going to lower.
Is that county-wide? Is that all Clarendon
Yeah,
County?
now it won't be it'll take, was it 3 years I read? 2 or 3 years before it will come into effect, because they have to do the assessments and reevaluate everything, and then they come out with the new rates. But it's county-wide, so it's going to affect us. I don't know that much about it to know. Andrew, do you have any, idea? Do you think that will help us or hurt us? Or okay, yeah. I mean, honestly, I don't think we've had a lot of new construction in our area. I don't know our area that would raise the assessment value. Okay, so I guess what we need to do then is vote on this measure to decide if we're going to raise taxes, and then we're going to have another motion to determine what increase we want. Andrea gave you that sheet that talks about several options. She has 2.3% in there. She has a 3% and a 4.6, which would take us to the index. So first, I guess we need to vote if we want to consider raising, and then we'll discuss what amount. So we have a motion to approve increasing the taxes that was made and seconded. So that's what we're voting on at this point. So if you're for that, you're gonna aye. If you're not for that, you'll vote that way too, okay? And then we'll just, depending on how that goes, then we'll vote on a percentage, okay? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Me,
Brady.
and Brady. All those abstaining? Okay, so it looks like the motion carries that we are going to increase. Now we need to discuss what percentage. Do we have a total count? Let's see. If you look on your first page, it shows you what amount of money on this first page of the packet, which she has listed there, what amount of money we would get each year revenue from those percentages. So if we start and look at the bottom, if we go to 2.3%, we're gonna get an increase of $82,726. If we go to 3.5%, it would be $104,234. And if we go to 4.6%, it's $154,858. Did everybody see where I'm looking? Okay.
Which paper are you on?
This packet that Andrea gave us, that has your individual one on the back, and the front one gives a synopsis of what we can expect to get at each level of interest rate. Now, keep in mind, depending on the county, some people's will go up and some people's won't, right? So discussion here.
If we have to raise it, I'd like to see it go to 2.3%.
Okay? Anybody else?
I guess that, this, like, why are we even raising it? For the 2,000.
Any other discussion?
We don't just need to just throw all percentages out and see.
Okay? So you wanna do a vote for each percentage?
I don't know, I think that makes sense. Like you said, at 2.3, you don't see a sense of raising that. 2,000 is more for revenue, but so is it for others.
Okay. So then, we'll need a motion for each one. Trying to think how we want to do this. I guess what we have to do is make a motion for the top amount. And if it's voted down, then we'll make a motion for the second amount. And then make a motion for the third amount. Does that sound correct to you guys?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Does that make sense? Okay. So does someone want to make a motion for the first amount, which would be 4.6%?
We'll make a.
I'll make a motion.
Okay? That for 4.6%, which the increase in revenue would be $154,858. I need a second. Okay. Motion seconded. Any discussion on that amount? Okay, we'll move on then to vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so did you get that, Tammy? You think so? Okay. Okay. All those opposed? Aye.
Brady and Keller.
So we had, that motion carries, correct? We had enough? One. Okay, so motion carries. We don't need to vote on the other amounts. So we'll be raising it to the index of 4.6% for a revenue of $154,858. Am I right in my numbers, Tammy? We got a majority? Okay, that brings us to P, right?
A discussion related to a preliminary view of the 2022-2023 budget.
All right, we're gonna look at the expenditures and the revenue package that I gave you. We're gonna do the expenditures first. It's the paper that has the highlighted blue and yellow. These are the preliminary budget expenditures for 22-23. The first category is the 1100 category, which is the instruction category. This category covers teacher salaries, taxes, social security, retirement, workers' comp, unemployment compensation, the benefits, honorariums, ACV cyber, equipment and repair, computer maintenance and repair, student field trips, teacher travel and conferences, purchase technology services, teacher classroom supplies, books, periodicals, computer supplies, software, educational software fees and assessments, and new equipment. Budgeted for 22-23, we have an estimated $6,734,451. And you can see down at the bottom there in the blue highlighted, the 21-22 budget was $6,818,000. Moving on to the 1200 category, that is the special education programs. This category consists of salaries for the special education teachers, substitute, child-specific aides, gifted, first program, retirement, taxes, the benefits, the IU special education contract, the special education consulting firm, field trips, travel and conference, supplies, books, periodicals, educational software, tuition, and private tuition. The total for 22-23 is approximately $2,319,994. I've also broke down the Blade Run, the private tuition, which is Blade Run and Pathways for 22-23, projecting to have 2 students at Blade Run and 1 at Pathways, and that's $86,500 of that total amount. In the blue is the 21-22 budget amount of $2,128,528. And you can see that there were 3 students at Glade Run, and we had 1 student at Glendon, for a total of $115,000. The 1300 category, which is vocational education. This covers the salaries for the home economics teacher, the business education teacher, substitute, taxes, retirement, benefits, supplies, books, and tuition for the career center, which is projected right now at 46 students. The total amount is $778,425. The amount that was budgeted in 21-22 was $713,243. The 1400 category is other instructional programs. This covers the salary of the homebound instructor, the Social Security, retirement, and travel. Estimated budget for 22-23 is $6,316. The amount that was budgeted for 21-22 was $6,304. The 2100 category is pupil personnel. This covers salaries for guidance, attendance officers, the school psychologist, speech, taxes, retirement, workers' compensation, benefits, supplies, purchase of technology services, books, dues, travel and conference. This is the social worker that is contracted through the IU, equipment repairs and maintenance. The amount budgeted for 22-23 is $691,050. The amount that was budgeted for 2021-2022 is $635,714. The 2200 category, which is support for instructional staff, includes the salaries of the media coordinator, computer technicians, librarians, Social Security, retirement, workers' compensation, unemployment compensation, benefits, audiovisual supplies, audiovisual equipment maintenance and repair, travel and conference, computer software, books and periodicals, training and development, and teacher tuition reimbursement. The amount budgeted for 22-23 is $590,067. The amount from the 21-22 school year was $569,340. The 2300 category is administration. This is salaries for the central office secretary, human resources, superintendent secretary, superintendent, principals, social security, retirement, workers' compensation, unemployment compensation, commission for the tax collectors, bonds, audit services, tax collector supplies, solicitor fees, notary fees, in-service speakers, equipment repair and maintenance, postage, insurance, travel and conference, dues and membership, and supplies. The total amount for 22-23 is $904,157. The amount for 21-22 was $866,980. The 2400 category is pupil health. This is the salaries for the nurses. It covers substitutes, social security, retirement, workers' compensation, unemployment compensation benefits, physician contracts, supplies, automated phone system, travel, dues, equipment maintenance and repair. Budgeted amount for 22-23 is $244,833. And the amount for 21-22 was $236,433. The 2500 category is the business office. This category includes secretaries, business manager salary, social security, retirement, workers' compensation, unemployment compensation, technology services, supplies, advertising, travel conference, equipment maintenance and repair, and the audit service. The amount budgeted for 22-23 is $234,947. The amount for 21-22 budget was $233,000. The 2600 category is operation and maintenance. This is the salaries for the operations supervisor, custodians, substitutes, ground maintenance, police officer, technician and ground services, social security, retirement, workers' compensation, unemployment compensation, auto insurance, fuel, utilities, contract maintenance, equipment replacement, and the Raptor system. The 22-23 budget is $1,640,279. The amount that was budgeted for 21-22 is $1,613,248. 2700 category is transportation. This category includes insurance, supplies, gasoline, salary of transportation supervisor, benefits, transportation contracts. The public is for 22-23 is 6.560%. For 21-22, it was 6.131. This also covers the non-public and after-school transportation. Budgeted amount is $1,175,896, and the budget for 21-22 was $1,150,740. The 2800 category is the federal programs coordinator salary, the social security, workers' compensation, retirement, and travel and conference. There's no amount from 21-22 because the 2800 is a new code, they replaced one. So federal programs coordinator was in the 1100 category previously. So budgeted amount for 22-23 is $13,289. 2900 category is the IU direct pay. This is the IU operating payment. The The amount budgeted for next year is $11,723. The amount from 21-22 is $11,766. 3,200 category is student activities. This is the salaries for student activities, athletics, trainer, officials, faculty workers, also the social security, retirement, workers' compensation. This covers food for the PSSAs, the police security at athletic programs, field maintenance, ambulance services, athletic transportation, athletics insurance, conference supplies, equipment, reconditioning, and entry fees. The total amount budgeted is $373,004. 21-22 budget was for $385,210. The 3,300 category is community service. This covers Career Day, Veterans Day, and homeless. The amount budgeted for next year is $2,500. The amount budgeted for last year was also $2,500. 4,200 is the existing site improvements. As of right now, there's nothing planned for 22-23, and last year there was in the 21-22 budget $89,975, which was the parking lot. The 4,500 category is building improvements. As of right now, there's nothing planned for the 22-23 school year. For the 21-22, the budget amount was $497,980, and that was the HVAC upgrade. The 5,200 category is the fund transfer category, and this is the bond energy project and the food service fund transfer. The bond energy project is $472,475. And the food service fund transfer is projected to be $92,450, for a total of $564,925. The 2021-22 budget was for $529,767. The 22-23 preliminary budget grand total is estimated at $16,285,856. The 21-22 budget was $16,488,817. These numbers will change over the next couple of months, but this is a good idea, the total expenditure. Does anybody have any questions on this? Okay, I'll continue to the revenue packet. This is the preliminary revenue for 22-23, and I also have 21-22 on there for comparison. Current real estate taxes, I estimated this at taking it to the 4.6 index. So for the 22-23 year, we're looking at $3,301,914 versus $3,147,056 the previous year. Public utility and realty tax, not really projecting any difference right now. Again, these numbers are subject to change with assessment values coming in and updating information. Payments in lieu of current taxes, $98. Current per capita taxes, $14,070. Current Act 511 per capita taxes, $14,070. Current Act 511 earned income, $500,000. Current Act 511 real estate transfer, $75,000. Delinquent real estate taxes, $390,000. Delinquent per capita, $3,000. Earnings, deposits and investments, $27,000. Dividends on investments, $150. Admissions for gate receipts, $12,000. State revenue from VOTEC, $90,000. The liquid fuels tax, $700. Access pass-through, $7,000. The IDEA pass-through, $121,000. Contributions and donations, $100. Services provided by other governmental units, $11,000. Energy efficiency revenues and incentives, $2,800. Miscellaneous revenues, $1,000. So local revenue total, $4,574,982. Revenue from state sources, the basic education projected right now is $6,374,212, which is up a little bit from last year. Basic ed funded social security, I'm looking at the same, roughly $237,338. Tuition for children, $32,000. Special education, that's projected to be up a little bit this year, or 22-23 to $771,872. Pupil transportation, $894,500. Non-public and charter school transportation, $17,325. Medical and dental services, $10,550. State property tax reduction allocation, $279,825. The Ready to Learn block grant, $151,489. The first program grant, $129,686. The state share of retirement contributions, $1,200,500, for a state revenue total of $10,099,297. The revenue from federal sources is in line with, the titles are in line with last year. We normally get updates by now, but they didn't give those at the federal programs conference this year. So at Title I, we're looking at $211,517. Title IIA, $27,116. Title IV, $15,902. And again, these could change depending on what comes out. The ARP ESSER, we're expecting to receive $829,895 for the 22-23 school year. School-based access Medicaid reimbursement, $18,000, and the medical assistance, $7,000, for a federal revenue total of $1,109,430. So the total revenue projected for 22-23 is $15,783,709. With the expenditures, we are still looking to be over budget, $502,146. And there's the comparison down there. I'm sorry, that says 2021, but it should be 21-22. We were projected to be over $1,399,968. Any questions on the revenue section?
Where would that leave us in our fund balance?
That was in the packets. Is it item or in? N, item N in your packet. Our fund balance goes based on what we were projecting to do the budget of the 1.3 million until the actual audit is done.
loss this year?
Under,
The 1.3 or almost 1.4 that we thought.
that was,
Is that the budget or is that the?
that's the
actual?
budget, and that's what we were expecting to be over budget.
Do we know, like, where we're at?
I don't know.
We usually find that out in January, don't we, when they do the audit?
We started the audit for 21-22 this summer, or the end.
Okay, so we may know in the fall, or will it be later? I was thinking it was later in the year when we finally found out where we were at.
I plan on getting him all of the information as early as possible to find out.
Okay. So at least we're better than we were last year as far as being over budget. I mean, we're still not where we want to be, but it's not.
Just keep in mind, the state budget's not passed, so we're not exactly sure what that state revenue looks like. Federal,
Right.
we don't have that information, so that may change a little bit. There's a lot of extra money coming in and going back out through that budget, as you can see. So yeah, we worked hard to cut down some of that losses, but some of that's the extra free money that's tied into it. We're slowly moving in the right direction.
Thank you for that, doing all that work for us, so we know where we're at, where we need to be at some point.
And Corey, that fund balance sheet's within your packet, but there'd be an estimate, if we finish off losing that 1.3 million and then the additional 500,000 this year, we'd be just under $2 million in reserve. And that's just a rough estimate right now. And that preliminary budget may change between now and May, if there's any direction from the school board as far as where you'd like for us to go. Right now, we're just continuing to work on the current numbers. We did not touch any of the supplies, we didn't reduce any of the cost. We do have a couple teachers that are retiring, and we're not replacing them through attrition. We're just going to fill that from within. But we didn't do anything. We dropped one bus from the fleet. But those are the big items that we've taken care of.
The attrition of those employees, where would that fell?
In the 1,100 category.
11?
And just keep in mind through ESSER, we added additional positions too, so that money's coming into there. So you don't see that drastic reduction like you probably will in 2 years. Because we added the math coach at the elementary, the K-12 counselor, and then the math coach at the high school.
So some of that money that we're seeing here is actually ESSER money.
Yeah, correct.
Is that part of the significant increase with the 1,200 too, with the special education?
Yes, the K-12 counselor, aides, taking aides from part-time to full-time also, whether it be ESSER, those would be included in the 12.
And then the startup of our autistic support in life skills classroom. So some of that money was slide into the 1,200 category from the 1,100. And then just additional needs for the support of the students with learning disabilities. That just continues.
Any other questions? Okay, I think we're ready to move on. Brady, can I ask you to do personnel?
Sure. Consideration to retroactively approve the request from employee 131 to use March 17th, 2022 and March 18th, 2022 as unpaid leave. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Consideration to retroactively approve the request from employee 389 to use April 4th, 2022 as an unpaid leave day. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Is that in favor or opposed? Carried.
I'm just aye. I said aye.
Okay, for in favor?
Yes.
Okay. Abstentions? Motion carries.
Consideration to approve advertising for part-time special education director. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, any discussion? I believe you are just looking to see what our options are, whether we're gonna stay with the group we have, or whether there's someone else out there, or whether we're looking at the IU. Just gonna see what all our options are at this point by advertising. Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Consideration to accept the letter of resignation from Megan Bashline as the junior high head track coach as attached. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Consideration to approve Eric Rothman as a volunteer nurse to accompany the seniors on their senior class trip, May 12th to the 14th, 2022, as attached. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries.
Consideration to approve hiring Amber Sanders as a part-time 3-hour per day cafeteria worker upon receipt of all appropriate documentation, contingent upon a 60-day workday probationary period at an hourly rate of $16.41. Upon completion of the 60-day workday probationary period, the hourly rate will be $15.61 per hour. So moved.
Second.
Okay, it was $14.61, I think you transposed your
Oh, I'm sorry.
deductible. Was I right on that? Okay. All right, moved and seconded, discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Consideration to approve accepting the formal letter of retirement dated April 4th, 2022 from Lori Kurtzy. Lori's last day with the district will be May 31st, 2022 as attached. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. We want to thank Lori for all of her hard work for the district for all these years, and she will be missed.
Consideration to approve advertising internally for a K through 6 school counselor. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, discussion. So David, with that would be also the person we hired for the grant funding counselor could apply for this as well. the permanent
Yeah,
position.
and then next month we'll have to advertise for that K through 12 grant funded as their counselor as well.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Consideration to approve accepting the formal letter of retirement dated April 5th, 2022 from Jacqueline Cottrell. Jackie's last day with the district will be June 1st, 2022 as attached. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries again. We're going to miss Jackie. She's done a great job for the district, and we're going to miss her expertise.
Consideration to approve the service agreement with the United Way of Venango County for a school counselor 1 day a week at the rate of $5,000 for the year as attached. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Just keep in mind this additional $5,000 is in the budget. We will offer additional career support up at high school. That's one of the areas we don't necessarily need to have right now, but it'll really help out with the requirements for Act 339 and support the high school staff up there as well. So, if you do want to reduce the budget, and I know it's somewhat minuscule as an area, or we can continue to move forward because that is a great deal for that support.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Consideration to approve to advertise internally for a part-time grant-funded ELA coach for the junior senior high school for the 2022-2023 school year. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? This again would be ESSER funds?
Is this the position that's half ELA and half math coach?
Yes. Well,
It'd be probably the way we envision it. If we can't find a math teacher, with Mrs. Roth, and we thought we could get creative, potentially have an English teacher at the high school with a half-day English classroom and half-day as a coach.
Okay. One of my concerns I have with it is if you have struggling students, I think that they need a dedicated math instructor, a dedicated English instructor, not necessarily one that's like half and half, somebody that's knows the subject in depth, and has the time throughout the day to devote to, helping the students that need the help.
Okay,
I think one of our concerns with that though was staffing
right.
that we had, that we wouldn't be able to take an English teacher from just that kid. That screwed up staffing.
Could be impossible.
Without us hiring someone else and then increasing the budget.
We're just, again, trying to explore various options to offer those additional supports to the kids.
Any other questions, discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Consideration to approve re-advertising for a temporary 7th through 12th grade math teacher based on grant funding for the remainder of the 21-22 school year and continuing for the 22-23 school year. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. We haven't had any luck so far, but hopefully, maybe with some graduations coming up here. I know I talked to the head of Clarions program, and she didn't have anybody that she knew of that wants to stay in the area, but who knows? So, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Consideration to approve the job description for the junior senior high school ELA coach as attached. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Consideration to approve the job description for the junior senior high school mathematics coach as attached. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Consideration to approve the job description for the special education teacher for the autistic support and life skills as attached. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Consideration to approve advertising for an accounts payable position. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. This will be looking for someone to replace the superintendent secretary with more accounting skills, I guess, than what we've originally asked for.
Are you looking for a applicant with an accounting degree or just experience in it?
More so with the experience with the accounts payable. We just realized going through the process that Jody's position was more related to an accounts payable than it is a secretary position. We advertised, we have some very qualified candidates to replace, some of the secretary duties, but the bulk of her work throughout the day is accounts payable.
So if they have an accounting degree, that would be great.
Yeah.
I mean, but we're not making that a firm requirement that they have that. Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Jameen, would you do instructional services?
Certainly. Elementary report, Mrs. Sherman.
So to start out tonight, I'd like to direct you to the packet at your desk that says from library tech to STEM. About a month ago, Mrs. Jessica Demelli, our current art teacher, approached me about the idea of adding a STEM class to our current specials rotation. Currently, we have 6 specials in that rotation: art, music, library, gym, health and wellness, and library tech. So looking at adding a 7th one wasn't really something we wanted to do. So she and I met a couple times and talked about what it might look like to have a STEM class, and found that a lot of what we do in library tech aligns with that T part of the STEM. So then we brought Miss Stephanie Best, our current library tech teacher, in on the conversation. The 3 of us met and talked about what current standards we would continue to meet and then what we would need to add to develop library tech into a STEM course. So the current technology, or current focus in library tech is technology. And that includes coding, internet safety, and keyboarding skills. But a complete STEM program would have 4 strands: coding, building, designing, and creating. So we're really hitting that one strand of coding and technology, but would like to hit the other 3 with our students. So a STEM class would include curriculum in all 4 of those strands, and I have some curriculum attached there that we'll take a look at in a minute. A cohesive transdisciplinary learning opportunity for the kids, projects tied to college and career readiness, ties to our core curriculum in math, science, and ELA, critical, creative, and computational thinking with things like coding and engineering design processes. Some samples of that would be robotics, the Scratch program that STEP currently uses, some design challenges, and then working on collaboration skills, because a lot of the STEM projects are very collaborative in nature for the students. As far as additional costs, the short answer for that is there wouldn't be any for 2022-23. They both felt that currently what STEP budgeted for library tech will cover them. There is a lending library at the IU where they can borrow things like robotics kits and that kind of thing. So they've looked into that and are reaching out to the person up there that runs that, Kelsey Boyles, I believe is her name. And for the smaller ticket items, they would send home with students, and we post on our Facebook page for parents, teachers, and community to donate items. And we've done that already with our annual STEM day, or when we have special STEM projects here at school. So when we need like cotton balls or pipe cleaners or cardboard tubes, we reach out to our community. Once they have this year under their belt, they would decide if there's anything they needed to budget for 23-24 and submit it with teacher budgets as they do now for library tech. So it would just be budgeted the same as any other special. What I attached there was the first copy, the tech standards that are addressed in the library. We don't have a person with the computer tech certification, so Steph took what is covered under the library standards and she's certified to teach and included in her curriculum. So this is the current library tech curriculum that Steph covers. The items that I highlighted, Steph will keep in library. So she will still address internet safety when she has library and some of the navigating the desktop and keyboarding as the kids get older. But the coding part is what will move to the STEM title. STEM doesn't require a special certification outside of K-6 elementary ed. And Mrs. Nomelli does hold the K-6 certification, and then Steph would only be doing the part that's coding that falls under the library standards. So this is the current, and then behind that is what we would be adding. So we keep the current coding standards, and we would add the science and engineering and math standards that are found listed by grade in the second packet. So we're hoping that this will, get a little bit more of the STEM ideas to our kids. We do struggle to find enough time for the sciences across the board, so this will be another opportunity to get some of that to our students as well. I wanted to present the ideas to you tonight. Next month, because it is a course change from library tech to STEM, we'll put it on as a new course. Is that correct? Yeah. And we'll combine those 2 curriculums into one under the new course. So then we will have it in the minutes that we approved it as a course. So I just wanted to give you that information. Does anybody have any questions on the new STEM?
So is that another rotation, or is that just replacing the
It will
library?
replace library tech. So there will still just be 6 rotations.
And is
As there is
Jessica gonna teach with Stephanie, or is she gonna pick up some of that, put it in her art classes?
No, Jess and Steph would take turns. So if it's a coding unit, then Steph would be teaching. If it's currently Steph teaches 2 classes in the 6-day rotation and Jess teaches 1. Now they'll each teach 1 and they'll share that second one.
Okay.
So they won't, they could team teach if they decide that it's a project-based thing that they
Depending on
want
what
to.
they're doing.
Yeah. But, one or the other will teach depending on, like I said, Steph's certified to do the coding and Jess is certified in the rest. So. All right, so moving on, Another issue with specials, I spoke with Courtney Rice, our ESSER-funded counselor, because she is the one who will be returning next year, whether it's as our new counselor or continuing in that ESSER role, about the counseling programs such as Why Try, some of the social stories and social programs that the counselors do. It's traditionally been an area where the counselors struggle to find time to do it, to work it into the classes. So we got to talking about how can we make sure those things happen, because I think everybody agrees that more than ever those programs are needed in our classes. So we took the idea of the health and wellness special, because it kind of falls under that umbrella, and are looking to collaborate with Jeff, and I met with Jeff as well, in 22-23, so that when there is a program like that Courtney or whoever the new counselors, those two would want to offer, they will collaborate with Jeff to use health and wellness periods, so that then we're not taking away from core instructional time to push into the classrooms to do those programs. Instead, we'll put it under the health and wellness umbrella in the specials rotation. So that would just be for our in-school counselors to use. Programs that are provided by outside agencies, like Passages, for instance, brings in the BABES program, we would still do those individually scheduled, because they tend to do all of their programs within a day or two, and we couldn't spread it across the 6-day rotation. We do have a federal programs family engagement activity coming up this week. We just did one on April 12th called Bingo for Books here at the elementary that was pretty well attended. And Mrs. Longo has been very instrumental in preparing these family engagement activities. The upcoming one is April 20th. It's called PSSAs and Programs in the Park. It's from 5 to 6 at the park in Parker. And the focus will be on what federal programs can do to help students and families. And our special guest speaker will be Mrs. Kersey, talking about how to deal with test anxiety, as next week we have our PSSA test beginning. We did set dates for kindergarten orientation. On the calendar, it does say June 1st and 2nd. We are going to adjust that to May 31st, the second half of the day, which is the in-service day, and all day on June 1st. We will do signups for time slots electronically once again. And once Erin has that link up and running, we'll share it both on the Facebook page and the website, so that families can get on the link and sign up for a time slot to bring their kindergartners in. We will send an all call out to the families that we have currently pre-registered, so that they know that the link is up and active. If there is any family without access or needs help because they encountered any kind of problem, they'll be able to call the elementary office to get that help. Central Electric will be coming into the school on April 29th to present an electrical safety program to our 4th grade students. Representatives from Central Electric were also on campus on April 5th to do a similar training with our transportation contractors and drivers. It was a very informative program. I got a lot of good feedback from everybody in attendance on how well that program was done. And I just wanted to say how grateful we are to have Central Electric as a community partner to help us give this kind of information to our kids. Last week on April 8th, Fire Chief Rick Amsler visited us to present checks to our fire prevention essay winners. Our winners were Gus Russell, Natalie Welter, Abigail Lander, and Malia Hoffman, all current 6th graders. We're very proud of their efforts and Mrs. Longo's efforts in helping them through that contest. And lastly, on March 31st, I hosted a Quarter 3 Superstar Luncheon for our Quarter 3 Superstars, Donnie Raz, Hannah Carbon, Leighton Manuel, Fawn Thomas, Josie Pfeiffer, Emmy Gagliano, Olivia Stiglitz, Weston Master, and David Lutz. And I want to publicly thank Mrs. Redding and her staff for preparing this special lunch for us. We have one more luncheon to recognize our Quarter 4 Superstars at the end of May. That'll be here before we know it. And that's all I have for tonight.
Busy. Thank you, Mrs. Shepherd. Secretary report.
This next month and a half is the busiest time in the entire school year, especially for the high school. It's amazing that the mid-4th quarter progress notes will be coming out next week, hopefully on April 27th. And the year is coming to a quick conclusion. We've received all course request forms, and we are in the process of scheduling classes for next year. We We hope to stay on target and provide students with a move-up schedule so that they can see what the courses would look like for next year. We will do our best. The schedule with the changes and the additions because of our audit on the special education front has made it pretty challenging. Most of the final weeks of school will be dedicated to testing with the PSSAs and with the Keystones. As Lori mentioned, PSSA testing will begin Monday, April 25th and conclude on May 6th. We were granted permission from the state of Pennsylvania to move Keystone testing up 1 week to avoid the testing in the last week of school. We will now begin that testing on May 11th and conclude May 20th with the Keystones. In addition to those state mandated tests, we have numerous AP tests in the first week of May. So you can see there won't be a whole lot of education happening in the next month. The prom will be on May 7th. And just a note, the date for the NHS ceremony has not yet been determined. We are collecting the forms and going through the data and the input from the teachers, and we will announce the date soon. We will add that to our website and put it on our calendar. Finally, as far as athletics, there have been many baseball and softball cancellations. Obviously, if you look outside, the weather has been absolutely terrible. We have been fortunate, though, because we have been able to use some turf fields, not just in Butler, but also over in Du Bois, and have been able to get a few games in that normally we wouldn't have been able to do so. So hopefully the weather will improve with some consistency, and we will get started on the main part of our season. And that is all of the updates for secondary report.
Thank you. Federal programs, do you have anything?
Yes, our ARP ESSER has been approved. And Carrie and I are continuing to work on our ESSER reporting that is due at the end of this month. And working on gathering documents for our monitoring, which we're going to have. And I believe, Mrs. Sherman, you have begun to make plans for the summer school programs.
Yes, I just didn't report on that this month because it's not solidified yet. But yeah, I have some volunteers and I actually just emailed Mrs. Longo today about needing to start that process.
And that's all I have for the programs.
Okay, great, thank you. District report.
Thanks, Renee. I'll start off with the football field update. I've been working with Amos Rudolph to get the survey and some estimated costs for this evening's school board meeting, and I do have some rough estimates for you. Just keep in mind that if we are going to dive into this project, we will have to act quickly. We'll go through the bidding process. We'll have to create an RFP, advertise for 3 weeks, and then open up the bids. I've contacted Farmer Bank, youth football, as well as varsity football. I see Coach McKinney's here this evening. Just some rough estimates. To get the field crowned in the middle and some drains put in there, it'd be about $235,000. They have not provided an estimate for a fence. The sound system, if we were to replace the sound system, the lights and pools, it would start off at anywhere between $100,000 and $150,000. And then the pools and the lights could be roughly between $450,000 and $500,000. So those are numbers that I wanted to share with the school board at this time. I know we do have a budgetary deficit that we're working at. I know we do have some partners. I'm not sure what kind of support that looks like. I know Paul Murray with the youth football organization reached out to Don Oberlander. He's seeking information about grants. I told him I'd be more than willing to help work on grants if we were able to find any that would be used on a project like that. So I didn't know if there was any comments or feedback. I know Kelly and I talked prior to the meeting when we were reviewing the budget. It may be something we want to plan for a year. I'm not really sure what the sentiment from the entire school board is right now. We can still dive into it. I talked to Amos about the possibility of doing it in the summer, using sod and having that field up and ready for the fall. So we do have some options right now, but we are running out of time.
my thoughts are, instead of rushing this and trying to get in, that we take a year to fundraise, see what kind of support we can get, so that we're ready to jump into it next year. But what do you think?
Coach McKinney, does the boosters and youth football, do you have any idea what kind of support you could offer in there? I know you've done different fundraising in the past.
I mean, there's definitely gonna be some money there that we can raise. I talked to Paul Murray about it too. I mean, there's some different things that we can do as far as the youth football program getting some grants and some money and stuff like that. So there's some stuff that we can do. I mean, I can't go to our parents yet and go and say, hey, we need to try to raise $750,000 to help them. I mean, we need to kind of see what support we're gonna get from the school and what commitment we're gonna get from the school. You know, the school, if this project's gonna cost us X amount of dollars, and the schools, you know, once the parents and everybody here to fundraise for it, I mean, varsity program, we kind of have to. So, I mean, we want to play here, but, you know, there's a lot of work involved in that. We definitely want to see what we're going to get as far as from the administration and the school and the board, as far as that goes. I mean, we haven't put any money in that since my sophomore year, so in like 93, 94 when the lights went in. So, I mean, I think it's time for the school to show a commitment to it and the board to show a commitment to it. And then before we start asking the community to open up their pockets. It's our thoughts.
So do we have varsity games here? Did we have any last year?
Yes, yeah, we can currently have them up there right now. Depending on the weather and the time of the season, it may get difficult because there is an area in one session that stays wet. But yeah, as far as having a game, we can. It's getting to the point where we do, like Chris said, we do have to do some kind of upgrade.
It's not going to happen very long until we have other people. I mean, it's to the point where other teams are starting to say it's a safety issue and they don't want to come here to play. We did have games here. We hosted Sheffield here, and there was we won more last year. But we had 2 home playoff games this year. Neither one of them we played AC Valley.
I just think it's hard for us to commit an amount till we have time to do some research and
I think we need more information as to what we're going to get into. But I think, I speak for myself, I mean, it's something I'd love to get into.
Yeah, and that's all we're asking for right now. You know, we're not asking to have a hurry up job in 6 months. I mean, obviously, that would be gorgeous.
It sounds like the expense is going to be prohibited that.
Exactly, yes. And we kind of, and that's what I said as far as us committing to a number. I mean, when we did the softball field in West Freedom with, you know, $0 from the school, we did that. You know, we were able to raise, you know, $30,000 in the course of 3 fundraisers to do that field for the softball field down in West Freedom with the help of West Freedom, Perryville's World down there too. So, I mean, this community can raise a lot of money in a short period of time. To ask them for $250,000 or something like that, I just don't know if that's feasible for us to come out with that.
David, how interested was farmers? I know that's the only place to reach out.
Yeah, because
Kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Around, but
yeah, they'd be more than willing to support. I mean, they've donated, you know, the school board up the football field as well as the basketball court when we renovated that, $25,000. Mark, is there anything you'd like to add? I've been trying to pull Mark into it.
Yeah, there's, Chris talked about the KSAC playoff game here. One reason I was told also wouldn't be here, we have no control of who can come into the games with no gate. If we're gonna put whatever amount of money, $100,000 or $300,000 or whatever it be, I kind of feel that we probably have to put a fence around the field, kind of protect the field, and keep the cars off the field, keep the four-wheelers off the field, dirt bikes. We do get a lot of goofy kids on there sometimes, not kids, that really help. But we need to fence it in, I think, to really protect the field. So that's not in that price either. So, that's something we need to look at in a bigger picture possibly. The lights, you know, the poles, the wood poles, they're done to us, and now humidity moves them around. The lights are clock height on there, I'm sure we can get a man lift, we could adjust the lights.
Central Electric did put all the lights up last time, they volunteered, I
That's
believe.
correct, we had Central Electric and, the local football parents, and Connor, the coach, he got the ditches with the ditch woods, they cut sod, they went and got sod, we went and sod up for them, sod farm. They did everything, they all volunteers did work last time. They said that they would, we can't have football on Friday night, nobody will come to the game, well, they packed the place the first game, and it's packed every game since then. So the football, Friday night football, and we spent $100,000 on bleachers or so. We have put, a little bit of money into the field, put a new concession stand up because of the storm. But the field itself has nothing been done on the field since '93 when Coach Kono got that group of people together and put the lights on. And they did that for a little bit of money. It was like, that's all volunteers. I ran the shuffle a lot.
Can you want some direction?
Yeah, I need a little direction whether we create an RFP going out for the football field itself, maybe a fence, a drainage, topsoil, something like that. If we wanted to see what this fence would cost, I could bring back additional information to you in May. I just don't want to wait too long because I'm going to struggle to get this project done. If we are going to plan to do it. And as you've seen in that budget, we do not have this football field in the budget this time. I did talk to Zach about refinancing the bond, and generally speaking, you cannot refinance a bond within the first 5 years. Now, Jenny Montgomery may modify that with us, but we did redo the elementary bond. We paid it off in 2018, and we extended the bond for 10 years. So we're 4 years into the current bond. So since we don't have the revenue to pay for it, theoretically, at the end of the year, it will just pull from the reserve at this particular time. So if we were to add $250,000 in it to take care of the football field, that's going to make our deficit grow to, $750,000.
I mean, I don't think this is something that's gonna happen this year, next year maybe, if that. I mean, it's gonna take a lot of fundraising. I know personally, I couldn't vote in good confidence to spend almost $1 million, a little over $1 million when it's all said and done. We're out far in the red. I mean, but if we get, quite a bit of support from the community and everybody else, then we might be able to.
So I'll continue to do fact-finding work with Paul Murray to see if we have additional grants out there. I'll get the additional cost for the fence, and I'll report some more information in there.
Yeah, maybe look at some other bigger businesses too.
That's what I was thinking too, Megan, reaching out to
Maybe you have.
the industrial product. I mean, there's lots of businesses that.
I know Highmark does grants for athletics. I don't know what all they cover with those grants.
I contact them, it does not fall into this. They're looking at more of like a treadmill, like $25.
The medic or the conditioning equipment.
Maybe,
Kane put all that money into their complex, and I know Dave Sherman was gonna reach out and talk to Kane, they're not a very big, district up there, they're not going in dollars up there either. And they just just redid theirs, a multi-million-dollar facility up there, they did their track field and their football team. Currently, I don't think we have any track meets here at all now either, right? So we've neglected that for the last 40 years or 35 years or whatever, and we're heading that same direction on the football field. So, I don't know if somebody can reach out to Kane or some of these other schools that are putting in these multi-million-dollar complexes and figure out how they're getting the money. Because I'm assuming we're not the only district to sit in here and say that we're $500,000 upside down. I'm sure other districts are having that same thing. They're figuring out ways to put money into their program.
Chris, when did you say the last time that you remember the field being redone was?
I don't ever remember the field being redone. The last thing I remember being done to the field was when I was a sophomore in '93 when we put the lights. Like I said, that was all volunteer work. We dug a lot of the ditches, brought a ditch switch in. Central Electric donated the poles and the lights, I think, or something like that up there. Mark I would say, we bought all the materials. The school was the football team, the boosters or whatever. The school bought all the materials. Central Electric donated all the labor for the linemen. We bought the lights. Those lights at that time we bought for like $200 a piece. They're like $1,000 a piece now. How the prices have changed. The wiring was done We bought the wire, the linemen and the parents put all the wiring in. My only concern is that they regrade the field, they might tear all that out. So we might not be planning on putting new lights in, but the time the job's done with, we might put new lights in.
No, I think you're right there. I think you take another route, they can start grading the field. You're not gonna get the wires.
Yeah, with all the drainage work they're putting in, they're gonna be cutting that wire multiple times.
Oh, for sure, definitely.
And the fuel got bad, like, when was the retaining wall put in? Late nineties up there?
96.
96, the field started getting real bad then because the drainage on the field because of the retaining wall wasn't working. So nothing's ever been really done to that. I mean, it'll be dry up there in August, and it'll still be kind of laying wet down in this end of the field. And that's, unfortunately, that's where a lot of the visiting coaches are, some of the concerns with it is it continues to get worse and worse and worse.
Feel like it's good for, we get a rainy weekend like this, and the youth football has 3 games here on Saturday, we have a game Friday night. You know, it can go to crap.
Maybe a junior high game through the week or something like that. And now this year, we're gonna be playing our numbers this year, our tentative numbers for varsity are gonna be 36 kids, so we're gonna play a full JV schedule this year too. So that's something that we're looking into now, as our numbers are starting to increase.
So it sounds like the direction we're giving David is we're figuring it'll be next year.
I think we need to take some time and see what kind of support we get from businesses, that
Right.
grants are available.
And find out how other people have done it.
I mean, it obviously would be nice to have it for this fall, but.
Yeah.
it's
And
already-
I don't think we
it's
have
already
time.
getting
I don't think there's the time to do
There's
it.
no time to do it the best we can with the money we can get.
I'll continue to work on the report back. I do appreciate the info from Kane.
Perhaps we need to get, committee together of some people who, dedicate some time to
Yeah,
helping you, because you can't do all that.
I think Paul and the boosters, they're more than willing to help out with that stuff. So I'll continue to just provide updates from month to month. I appreciate the discussion. Just quickly, comprehensive planning, we did have a meeting on March 28th. We reviewed the mission, vision, and shared values, as well as current school performance profile data. We have another meeting planned for April 28th at 6 p.m. It is virtual. I'll continue to share that information out. And Bill and Lori's working on the building report. I'm working on a comprehensive plan. And we have our teacher solution group working on a special education plan at this time. We're using some of the information from the audit to help shape that plan, but that will be a work in progress. An update from Zeta. We had the representative in here last month. We've emailed back and forth, had several phone calls. They're hoping to have a contract to us for the May school board meeting. And I explained to them our timeline. Jeff has been instrumental in that discussion, so we're hoping to get additional bandwidth and then also money towards that monthly bill. And just real quickly, legislative updates. There's a lot of action going on in Harrisburg. There's House Bill 2468 that's being discussed, and that's to provide additional mental health services to our students and hopefully money to come and help address the cost. The governor's budget proposal, they continue to discuss it. Just keep in mind that we have a Republican chambers on both sides. We have a very aggressive Democratic budget in front of us. I'm not sure what's going to manifest from that. There is a lot of discussion about increasing special education costs because it continues to increase for everybody. Now, the IRRC had approved some regulations that the governor had proposed as far as charter and cyber school reform. And there are 7 different items that will be mandated towards the charter schools. The 2 areas that I'd like to just share with the group is clarify the ethics requirement for charter and cyber school trustees, the same document that we signed, and we're using taxpayer money appropriately. They've never done that in the past. So that's one gigantic step forward. But probably more importantly, they're going to require charter schools to follow the same fiscal management and auditing standards that public school systems have been doing. And that's an argument that we've been making for 10 years out there. So those 2 pieces themselves will hopefully continue to spread light on the additional costs of cyber school. And then finishing off, there's House Bill 2169 being discussed, and that's the Opportunities Scholarship Act that falls into the bottom 15% of the schools. It's trying to add additional money into it to provide students from the school district with opportunities to go to different schools, whether it be private, parochial, or a different public school. Just keep in mind too, when we talked to PD last week about that, cyber schools are not part of that bottom 15%. So most of the cyber schools with their testing data, they fall below almost every
0%.
single, public school in the state. But yet the bottom 15% of the federal schools do not have any cyber. They're omitted from that process, which is more than disappointing because you think if a parent pulled their children from the school, they'd want to know if that cyber school is failing or not. And then just finishing off a lot of discussion around that cyber charter reform. There's a House Democratic Policy Committee that continues to meet. They discussed it. There's no resolution that was approved, but the discussion continues. So at your board, the last thing, or at your seat, the last thing that I have came from PSBA, and it's the annual state report, and that came from the PSBA interviewing and providing surveys to all of business managers and superintendents. So if you take a little bit of time, take a look at that. We're all in about the same position. And Jermaine, that completes my report from me.
Great, thank you. And then, of course, the district enrollment numbers as of April 11th are attached. Do we have a student board representative report tonight?
All right, so some recent events at the high school. We currently had another SAT day at the school. And as a student who needed to take that, I thought that was a great opportunity to have that at the school instead of having to go another day. So I think we should definitely continue to do that. We're still trying to reach the 3,000 sort card goal for the high school metric meet. We have plenty of students eating the school lunches and breakfast. They're being enjoyed by lots of students. This past week, we had another mentor meeting for our senior projects. Everything seems to be going pretty smoothly for that. And our softball, baseball, junior high volleyball team, and track season seem to be going pretty well for the games and meets we're able to get in. Upcoming, again, we have prom coming up May 7th, I believe at the high school. Some upcoming trips this week. Tuesday, some of the higher level Spanish classes are going to be going to Grove City College to sit in on a class. Wednesday, a group of students are going to Edinburgh University. And Thursday, there'll be some art students going to Slippery Rock University. And also, like Dr. Jordan said, we have upcoming PSSA from Keystones in this next month. And that's all I have.
Great, thank you. Do we have a school police report tonight?
It's at your seat. Dave's not there tonight.
Okay. So,
Thank you, student board rep, for being
yes, that
here
was nice,
tonight.
thank you.
And we appreciate your input, and anytime you have any suggestions, make sure to let us know at one of the meetings, because that's why we have you here. We want to know what you think. So, thanks. Eric, would you do policy?
Letter A, consideration to approve the first reading of policy number 251, homeless students as attached.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Letter B, consideration to approve the first reading of policy number 255, educational stability for children in foster care as attached. So
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you, Eric. Jeff, could you do facilities and transportation for us?
Sure, we have a maintenance report, yeah.
I've been here for a couple months.
But have you got?
Yeah, I'm glad to be back. Outside, the weather cooperating with the Danny and James has been getting all the parking lots cleaned up, gravel cleaned up in the winter. We've got the large bleachers back at the football field. And after the metric meet track season, we'll get the little bleachers out there for graduation. Is next. We've had the last week we had a large exhaust fan on our kitchen main goods, the elementary school here. Fan came apart. Of course, there's a large fan that came apart. It pretty much destroyed the inside of the fan. We ordered one in, we got it replaced today, so the kitchen, even though they had a fan down. So luckily, school was off for Easter break, and we'll get it back up. New and replace it back up running today. We had our monthly fire drills last week at the high school and the elementary school, and first of the month we had our yearly meter inspection done on our telescopic meters, which required by law to have done once a year. In the football field lights, we did originally, the local family paid for that. The school didn't pay for that, so the local family and the Crawford Fund paid for that. So, and that was one thing, the school didn't want to spend money at that time, so they found a way to get it done. That's it, thank you.
Transportation. Consideration to approve a fuel stipend for the AC Valley School District van and bus contractors starting on March 14th, 2022, and running to the end of the 2021-2022 school year as attached. No fuel stipend will be applied to the 2022-2023 school year unless otherwise agreed to by the AC Valley School Board. So moved. Second.
Okay, moved in second, any discussion?
Just keep in mind the formula that's in front of you is exactly the same as Union School District. They based it off of some of the information I've shared from Clarion. So we do have a shared contractor. I've provided numerous correspondence with the school board to keep you up to date with that. That'd be probably a rough estimate of about $6,000 additional dollars for March, April, and May.
Is that $6,000 each month?
Per month, correct.
So we're looking at $18,000 total for this year.
Yeah, just a rough estimate because we did not calculate in the extracurricular run, the baseball, the softball, the track, and all that. So that would be the lowest it would be right now. So it could be.
So we could be talking $20,000 total.
Correct.
And that's going to add to our deficit.
Yeah.
Yes, because it's not in the budget. So we have to figure out where those funds would come from.
How much did we save out of there for that bus run at Renewal versus Union?
Jody, wonderful Jody made a short calculation that it would be about $20,000.
What we saved.
Lori, can you correct me? Was that the saving we have for an entire year, or what we saved in that particular amount of time?
I'm not sure. I know it's not as big a saving. It's not as like you take the full cost of that run, and that's what we save because we get reimbursed 80% of that from the state. So only 20% of what we paid out for that route is really what we're saving. So 20,000 might have been for the year.
I'm pretty sure it is for the year.
Yeah.
So that would be next year, right?
Yeah, we saved a little bit because we had stopped running the bus now, so I maybe a quarter of that, but next year, that's about the same.
So we kind of have to pay for it.
I'm sorry?
We kind of have to pay for it.
Well, not really.
No.
We didn't budget for that bus next year at all, so.
No.
I must have missed something last month when I wasn't here. What, you stopped the bus run already?
We had one bus that we couldn't find a driver for, so we eliminated, was it bus 12?
Bus 12.
Was it in the middle of this year or something? Okay.
Back in March?
February.
February? Yeah, February or March. We lost a driver.
Oh, okay.
And the contractor was unable to replace that driver, but she was able to absorb the route with her other two buses. So that's what we did. And we're just going to continue that for next year.
Okay.
But we didn't figure that amount into the budget you gave us anyway, like that.
Now, this year, we would have budgeted for
Right.
12 buses.
But next year we
But
budgeted,
next year, we
thinking
only
about
budgeted
that, and
for
we're still $500,000 in debt.
As a person who owns a company that travels on the road, we travel, depending on the day, yes, my husband, between 12 and 15 states, and we drive everywhere we go. So yes, we have been hit hard by this fuel, very hard by this fuel. Whenever the technicians have, I can't just tell if it's a hotel room or a gas charge on their credit card, because they're almost insane now. We're talking $100 to fill a tank. And this is something that we as a business just have to absorb, because we can't pass the cost along to our customers, because with the price of inflation and everything else, then that, raise the price, you spike your nose off, spite your face. A number of years ago, I think it was 2008, whenever the world went bad, at that point, we tried doing what we yes, FedEx and all them were doing was adding the fuel surcharge to our invoices, not increasing our prices, adding the fuel surcharge. And we would literally have customers just cross it off and not pay it. So we're back to the same thing. Do we raise our prices and risk running losing customers by raising our prices, or do we just absorb it and hope that it goes down? So I do understand that the bus drivers, they're all business owners themselves. We're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place here because we don't have the buses because no one's full. So, if we do end up paying it this time, I think we've been very generous with the bus drivers over the last couple of years throughout COVID. We try to keep things going for them, understanding that they are also caught between a rock and a hard place. I feel that from here on in, if this is something that we need to look at the contract and put in, then maybe that's how we address it. But it's kind of getting to the point now where every time we turn around, we're giving something more to them and giving something more to them. And nobody has a crystal ball to know what's going to happen, but if we can maybe kind of get some of this down the road, try to maybe address if this does happen, this is what we would do so we can budget for it.
And that works the other way too, the fuels.
Low, when fuel's low, then they're making money, yeah. So that's just my 2 cents. I see both sides of it.
So we need to vote on this. I mean, if you vote yes, that would be to approve giving the fuel stipend. If you vote no, it would not give them the stipend. Is there any other discussion? I mean, I think we all agree that if we had the money, it wouldn't be an issue. But when you're looking at a deficit of $500,000 for next year, and we don't even have the money we need for this year, we're how much in the hole?
1.3 million.
1.3 this year, that we're hoping we can maybe not be, but doesn't look promising. It's a tough call. So
When is their contract up to renegotiate?
it's every year. It's a yearly thing.
And when do you normally do that?
The contract runs July 1st to June 30th. That's just what we put in the language, but we can't actually do the bus driver contracts until they do their runs and get their mileage.
Okay.
So we don't run buses in July, August anyway, so they have to do what's called a bus computation sheet for me. And then I can put all those computations into the formula and give that to Jody or whoever next year to figure out the bus pay.
So schools are.
So September is when we technically do the contracts.
Now, we do know that we're gonna get a little increase from the state fund, correct?
Well, we
Transportation.
Well,
don't know that, but their, the transportation cost index went up some. So
Yeah.
it's at 6.5%, which we already approved. So we've already theoretically set their prices in place for the budget that we.
Yeah, that was a 7% increase. It's typically, at least in the 6 years I've been doing this, it's around 1 to 3%. And this year the cost index went up 7%,
So they'll have a
which
So
increases
that'll help them next year, right?
that, yeah, it helps them, it costs us more because that cost index is part of our formula.
Right, but do I understand correctly, though, the state will give us more back or not on that? Or then we don't know that
But,
yet.
don't know.
I mean, it's 80%, so
Okay,
we get 80% back.
whatever the cost is, okay. Okay, are we ready to vote? Any other discussion?
Well, I get I just don't want to be in bad faith with the transportation services as we go into a negotiation for next year. That's my 2 cents.
Like Corey and Janine are saying, you're running a business. Some years you're gonna have really good years, when diesel is really cheap and gas is cheap, and other years, like this year, you're not gonna have a good year when everything's going up, All the businesses are gonna feel that, not just contractors.
Agreed. Yeah. Okay, are we ready to vote? You guys still with us online?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Anything you need clarified?
No, good.
Okay, all right, all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed?
Aye.
So in favor, we have Carrie and Eric.
Opposed, anyone else?
Yes. I was opposed. I think it sounded like I said aye when I was just saying everybody is say aye. Sorry. Okay. Corey, would you do miscellaneous?
Yeah, so Career Center report at our last meeting, if you guys remember, we talked about the subsidy money, how it's gonna be divided up. Right now, as of the last meeting, there's still one school holding out on that, so it hasn't been put into effect yet. The school just hasn't approved it, they just keep tabling it. That's what they decided what they didn't do.
Okay.
Which at that point, if it's not approved, then technically all of that money could stay in Career Center, is where it stands. It's written into the bylaws, none of that has to go back to the district.
Okay.
So, it can be something that's negotiated every year when that money comes in, but at this time it has to go.
Okay.
And then they just hired brought back a long-term sub for the auditing position. He was there most of the year, and then he left February.
He left in December,
Okay.
and then he came back just in March, I think it was.
He was-
We've been struggling with filling that long-term auto sub.
He was coming in a couple days a week, to get the kids ready for mock testing and different things, and now
That's
So
what
you
we're
can come
doing.
back. full time. But other than that, and then the budget is in front of you guys.
Yes, I want to remind you that you should have a sheet to sign, and then we need to give that back to Tammy.
And if I remember right, I believe Tracy figured the budget as that 40% staying in Career Center, the rest going back to the centers. But again, that could change based on that.
And as I always say, Tracy's, Wilson's the director there, she does an absolutely wonderful job. She has been terrific.
And she has a good plan for that money. She's trying to do some building upgrades.
Security rescue.
Yes, doing the security entrance and then trying to get the girls' locker room on one end of the building. She has a good plan. So, consideration to approve declaring County Career Center Board Resolution on the 2022-2023 budget as attached. So moved.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion on that? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. So if you would fill that out and give that to Tammy on your way out tonight.
Carrie and Diane, I'll sign your names and put my initials on it.
Okay.
Okay?
All right, and then intermediate unit report.
Ben, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Not much, from last week. I think, we spent the majority of the time in executive session. The biggest takeaway was that the support staff contract, wasn't unanimously approved. Other than that, nothing much to mention.
Thanks, Karen.
Thank you. All right, we have any correspondence?
No.
Technology committee update
We have that.
today. Athletic committee
We haven't met.
and finance committee.
We haven't met.
That was easy. All right, any old business? New business, the only thing I want to mention is graduation date and time has been set at 5 o'clock, am I correct?
Yes.
May 29th. And David, if anyone is handing out diplomas, do you need to know that next month?
Yeah, when somebody can shoot me an email, let Dr. Jordan know.
If you know someone that you will hand out a diploma to, they need to know that by next month. And that's all I have. Anything else? Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on that? All in favor? Aye. Okay.
Thank you all.
Everybody's
Have a great
opposed.
evening.
Thank you.